Hello, Froggy here, and I've got something very special for you today. It's something I've wanted to be able to do for a long time. Today, we'll be getting to the end of the Shattered Throne dungeon. Of course, launching the dungeon would be too easy, so we're gonna do it from Last Wish. And I want to make sure you have a fresh one, because we will need the very beginning of it to accomplish this feat. Naturally, that means we'll be using the Interdimensional Rez Breach. So, like most of my Last Wish shenanigans, we'll be going through this handy-dandy not-so-solid wall. You'll probably want to be doing this on Titan, because we need to do some sword flying, although later on you're going to have to be on a Warlock, so bit of swapping might be required. You're also going to ideally want 3 people for this, but you only really need 2. So we're just going to make our way around the building. We could have also gone underneath, but this way doesn't require any sword ammo, and well, you can currently generate sword ammo from nothing by swapping the reserve types while dead. It is a little bit time consuming to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and hit the load here and either die to it or die after it. We just want to get into Ria Silvia. And we'll be using the wrong warp over there. But I'll come back to that in a moment. So now, you may want to pull out your Sparrow, but unfortunately, Bach's on the only vehicle we're allowed, so we're gonna have to walk. Doesn't stop me from speeding up the footage, though. Unfortunately, Sparrows are not allowed anywhere in Last Wish. At least, not unless you do it from patrol. And then Sparrows are allowed everywhere, but alas. We're gonna make our way to the portal in Spine of Carries, and at that point we'll be setting up the persistent wrong warp. That way our ally can join us as well. So once you're in position, you want your ally to head into the Lost Sector. They don't actually hit the load though, you want them to stop in the preload. At this point, the Lost Sector will have been loaded, even though you haven't gone in there fully. To do that, you just need to get around to this rocky section here. Once in position, you can head through the portal a bunch and see if the warp is in place. As you can see, I'm in the middle of nowhere. You may want to go through while they're on the way just to ensure that it is, in fact, persistent. If the wrong warp doesn't persist, try swapping roles. At this point, your ally can join you. If you don't get teleported going through, you'll want to die and respawn to avoid waiting for that long fall. Once through, face back towards the city and head to the left. We're going to be stasis climbing up this wall. And the reason we've done the persistent wrong warp and had our ally join us is that it is much faster to stasis climb with 2 people than with 1 person. Now, it may so happen that one of you will get the wrong warp way before the other, and if that happens, it is probably worth your time to just hold position on the rock base here until your ally can join you. So I'm just going to sit here and refresh my grenade. If you have 2 people for stasis climbing, you can climb very nearly twice as fast, so it is definitely worth the wait. You can see Bach is about here, and we can begin the climb. Find it's probably best to have 1 person dedicated on the left and 1 on the right. And you'll want to shoot the stasis crystals farthest away so that you don't inconvenience your ally. As you can see, this goes much faster than solo climbing, and not just because the footage is sped up, but it's still a lengthy climb. Eventually, however, you'll get to the top. We had some mishaps, which is why I'm out of ammo here. The left side is not quite as high, so you might be able to skip a nade if you jump over there. That colorful thing in the background is a object we lovingly refer to as the potato chip. Back in the early days of IRB, we were trying to use that as a global ground to get into Shattered Throne. But nowadays, the global ground is obsolete. All you really need is to know where ground in your destination is. And so long as you die at or above that, you're good to go. So where we're heading now is just about the closest land that you can get to where Shattered Throne is located. Now to die above it, we're going to need to take advantage of some interesting grenade launcher quirks. And to do that, we're going to want to lower our light. I'm gonna go ahead and put on a Halloween mask and the Dreamer's Mark, and that should make it pretty easy to one-shot myself with a grenade launcher. So I'm going to go ahead and follow this intangible cliff face out. And that's because we need to hit a somewhat specific area. Luckily our target structure is pretty large, so there's a decent amount of leeway.
Guardian, down.
What we're going to be doing to die in midair is falling faster than our grenade shot. Normally in midair you could just fall and summon a sparrow to do a lot of damage to yourself, but sadly, no sparrows. So you can see underneath there's some handy textures that we can use to locate about where we are aiming. I'll highlight the landmarks that I use for this in a bit. So if you look here, you can count two kind of stream things, and the second one branches off. You kind of want to go for the center of all those branches. Once your speed is right, fire, hold, and release, and you should die midair. You want to do it a bit before you reach the texture. At this point, our death point is set, and we are pretty much good to go on the IRB front. Now we just have to get back without dying. So we're going to be dropping back into Spine of Carries. The only thing that could mess us up now would be accidentally dying, which reminds me we should probably up our light back up a bit. So you don't want to go too far this direction because you'll get pulled into the box. But you can go a little ways. I'm just coming closer to get a nicer flight in. As long as you stay up high, you won't have any trouble.
Guardian down.
You could really drop in a lot earlier than I am here, but I'm just enjoying the view. My favorite way to land is with a stasis melee, because it is nice and gradual and safe. A sword swing would also work, and sword blocking should work. As you can see, there are active enemies here, so if you forget to raise your light, you are in for a world of hurt. So now is one of the other slightly scary part. You could get wrong warps going through here if it's still persisting. It probably won't be, I'm not quite sure what causes it to end. But, worst case, dying to the true edge doesn't actually affect IRB. So now we just want to get out of map here. There is a nice intangible ceiling here that we can take advantage of that Henry ran into, because of course Henry found an intangible wall. So we're going to be dying to the Confluence load, and we can do that from Harbinger Seclude, which is amusingly the one that's in the direction of Shattered Throne, which is a lovely coincidence. So you don't have to make that jump, which is good because I certainly didn't. And right here is where we'll die to the load. I generally just wiggle back and forth with A and D as I walk down that, and tends to do the trick. And here we are.
You are finally here. Brother Slayer, Spawn Killer. All that strength, and you're still nothing but a retainer to the Awoken Queen. You could be so much more. All you need do is wish it. Come. I would quite like to meet you.
I'm pretty glad we got Zavala's voice there, because whenever I'm out of bounds, I just like to imagine that as soon as I come across the door, it's just going to burst open, and I'll hear Zavala say,
Hello, Guardian. What do you think you're doing? Do you have any idea how dangerous this thing is?
I just feel like the community hasn't gotten enough mileage out of that meme. Anyways, now that you're here, if your ally is still trying to set their IRB point, you are a pretty good marker for them. You can see Bach is right above me on the radar. And in a moment, it'll be time to see if we can locate Callie. So now that Bach has his point set, he can IRB onto the platform, and I can pick him up. Of course, that is not necessary at all, because as soon as we hit the next load, anyone who wants to can join in. For the moment, you're limited to 3, but as soon as you hit the Shattered Throne load, you don't have to worry about the random error codes you get in Confluence, and you can have up to 6 people exploring from then on. So if we just head in this direction, we'll hit the load, and it is quite the transition. Welcome to Erebus without the fancy lighting effects. Now we could just drop down and walk like a normal person, but where's the excitement in that? One of the things I didn't quite realize before seeing this without the lighting effects is just how bright the reds would be in this zone if we didn't have the ascendant sort of swirlies around us. Despite how light it looks right now, those swirls actually give us most of the lighting, so for parts of this it'll be rather useful to refer back to normal Shattered Throne. So let's go set that up. As you get further in, you're going to end up needing to be a warlock, so you might as well bite that bullet early. You'll need Astrocyte Verse, but for most of your general moving around, you'll probably want to be on Top Tree Dawnblade. One of the recurring themes of Shattered Throne from Last Wish is none of the doors open. So let's go ahead and skip past this one. You could stasis climb, but Top Tree's Solar Nade gives us a better option. You may have noticed that this entire structure kind of leans to one side, which means the vertical walls are not quite vertical. An ideal surface for using the grenade to just skate up the side. From the top, you can just drop down in front and carry on. let's go back to the darkness. So you're definitely going to be relying on ghost lighting a lot as you move around here. And it's kind of easy to get a little disoriented like I did here, because without the ghost light, you can't see a thing. So we're going to be doing the normal first encounter skip here. So let's take a look at that in the light. So we just drop down here. And when you jump across this, you don't want to go too high or low. Just go right against the cylinder and fall. To go a little bit in this direction and hug the cylinder again. And again. And now we just need to hit the load around here. After that, we can die to get back into the map. And we're good to go for that part. Let's try that on the dark side. You can see this is a little bit harder to see. You can hardly even see where the ground goes. But once again, just jump over to the tube and drop down the side. Probably going to have to use a bit of ghost lighting to even see where the edges are. And there's the load. Once again, we just need to die to get back in. And at this point, we'll need to swap over to a warlock. Since I have allies in there, I can switch without worry. Make sure you have your astrocyte verse and a sword of some sort. You'll see why in a bit. So this wall is much easier to see if it's light. So let's go ahead and check this out there first. You can see that there's all sorts of nice little cubbies that you can jump around between. What we want to do here is scale this wall and get all the way to the surface above it. As you can imagine from these fine details that I'm jumping into, this could be quite annoying if you're essentially doing it blindfolded. The persistent ghost glitch no longer works, so we can't just hold that out. We could take the door, but in Shattered Throne from Last Wish, that door isn't going to open, so we're going to the top. So, probably a good idea to use stasis climbing here instead of trying to fumble around in the darkness. As you can see, the stasis crystals have their own faint glow, so climbing them is fairly straightforward. You still have to contend with the little bumps in the wall, but after a while you should be able to make it to the top. And rift lighting also can help a fair bit. And here we are. Still, without the ghost, we can't see a thing, so looks like we don't get to do much running. This area is kind of like a U shape. We want to go right to our left, but there's a pushback stopping us. We have to kind of run all the way down this side and cross over by the bridge. Pretty soon we're going to have to use Blink, so that's why I set that up. We've been trying to find a Rez Breach to get by this part, but so far the only route that we know is blinking below the death barrier, and then back above it. Thanks to Daxon5 for showing us this route. So I'm going to activate blink here, and let's turn on the lights first. Blinking through death barriers requires pretty precise timing. Blink too soon and you'll blink into the death barrier. And if you blink too late, you'll die mid-animation. The balance is somewhere in between. For this particular one, I like to jump off and give it a 3 count. And that tends to work out. Once you're through, you'll want to swing your sword to help land on the ground here. At this point, you'll probably want to go back to top tree to move around. There's a few dashes to get up here. And over here, there's a little ledge you can jump up onto. You don't want to jump here, though, because the death barrier is right above you. And that's where blink comes in. Past this little pointy bit, there's actually a cubby you can get up to. You'll need to blink, swing your sword, blink, and swing again. It's pretty easy to fall off of, so careful. From here, we can just jump back up top. I would recommend waiting for your grenade to be up so that you can make the jump easily. And now let's do it for real. Not gonna lie, I got pretty lucky here. My blink put me directly above and I barely even needed to do anything. But before we try the next part, let's give some platforms to help out our allies. You're definitely going to want to have multiple people if you can for this part, because if you mess up, you don't want to have to do that blink again. So that's one person. Let's see if we can help out another. Well, almost. And there we go. Now let's head on up to the next part. This jump can be a little precarious when you can't see anything. I would recommend trying to light things up with the grenade and perhaps ghost pings. The grenade gives you enough height to easily glide up here. And you can dash along the surface. Now that one person's up, it's much easier for others to as well. While you wait, you can check out the nice scaffolding and be glad that there are no ogres to knock you around here. So let's check out Henry going up. You can see he blinks through the barrier, swings, and then blinks up to the ledge. With him there, it's going to be much easier for us to do it. Well, luckily we still have someone to res us. Let's give that another go. You definitely want to be blinking as fast as you can after that sword swing, otherwise you'll just hit the death barrier. And once again, we swap to solar and await our grenade. And now we've got the Thrallway. Luckily for us, even though we don't have lighting, we don't have thralls to worry about. There's nothing much interesting here, so we can just kind of speed through it. Plus, that might hide the fact that I got lost 1 or 2 times here. So, you may be thinking to yourself at this point that the only remaining challenge is Ogre Skip. Well, you're in for about the same surprise that we were. We thought we were pretty much in the clear at this point, but as we approached the pretty red banners of this building, we were hit by another problem. Another door, and all doors are closed. So, at this point, Mad had already gone here from patrol via a separate method, so I knew it was possible. So after a while, we were able to figure it out. Let's take a look at the route from the light side. Of course, from here the door is open, but we're just going to ignore that. So if we climb up this building here, it turns out you can vigorous dash up the side of it. We have to do this on Warlock because we need to hit the next zone to be able to switch back to Titan. Luckily, that works and we didn't need to use Titan slithering or something like that. Though I wonder if the effect is kind of similar. So from here we just need to get around to the back side of the load and come in from there. And luckily we can do that. You can see the hallway sticking out there, but I wanted to take a look up here first because, you know, nice little hallways you wouldn't normally ever see. But when you're ready to move on, just come to the end of this hallway and drop down into it. And you should load into right where we need to do Ogre Skip. So let's go back to the brilliant red banner and see how that plays out. This is actually the footage of the first time I was trying to work out how to get by.
Guardian down.
You notice that Vigorous Dash worked a little bit on this surface. And from there I figured a super might be able to get me all the way across. Now, from here it is once again pitch black. So I ended up wandering around for a fair bit of time. But eventually I ran into the same conclusion that you saw in the lighter version. There is a path out of the darkness. There are, of course, much more direct routes, but I didn't really know what I was doing here. In this one, I went to the bottom left instead of the top right. And I may have died along the way. So from here I just jumped out and saw a little bit of a ledge with the ghost ping. I would definitely recommend doing that line ping occasionally so you can get a shape of the geometry you can't see. And this is actually the hallway from before, but I didn't know it until I rounded the corner. And at this point, the dark and light areas actually converge because for some reason the lighting effects work here. But now that we don't need Warlock anymore, I'm switching back to Titan. We're definitely in the home stretch now. All we've got left is performing a normal Ogre skip. So Warlocks of course can blink through the gap. We used to be able to sticky nade climb through it, but that got patched, but then unpatched by stasis? Always had me scratching my head with that one, but you know, it's pretty nice. So there goes a reptile blinking through, and we'll be following up with stasis. A short little climb. And it would help if I had my climbing armor on. You don't need to have terribly high discipline, but it helps. Once you get near the top, you can crouch and possibly stasis melee through. So we'll get to that on the next throw. And my placement was a little bit high, so we'll probably end up doing the melee route here. And now we just need to take the normal path that I totally remember, and I'm not entirely relying on JJ here. But yeah, lots of thanks for jjreptile for showing me this route again. It has been a long time since I've had to do this. And yeah, we're almost to the end. Just got to jump up to this bit and watch out for the turn back once you're on the roof here. But as long as you dip down with that quite lenient timer, you should be good to go. And now we're really in the home stretch. So might as well put back on our pretty armor. We won't be needing anything else particularly fancy. One of the neat things about getting here outside of the mission is that the bonus chests are actually still present and working, as we can just fly over to the side here and grab this one. I'm sure they're all here, of course. Ooh, the new version of that rocket. I forgot they had updated that loot in, I guess that was the Chosen emblem. And just, this all's just straightforward, so no reason to not speed it up. It is much more relaxing going through this when there's nothing shooting at you. Just a nice jaunt up the stairs. So here, instead of continuing along the normal path, we're gonna go the chest route. So I didn't actually remember about this one, and I particularly didn't remember that you can just keep going. So we can just jump up here with the help of a single grenade and help ourselves to the free loot that we totally didn't just spend hours getting to. Anyways, we can just carry on. I have to admit, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this if you're just going for that chest. There are probably easier ways to go about it. Ah, the lifts of victory. Just one more to go. And here we are, Shattered Throne Boss Room. And from Last Wish, no less. Which means, of course, that we can get up to 6 people in here now. But they'll have to do the Ogre skip as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to mess around here. We've definitely earned some goofing off time. Because you don't have the mission triggers, you can actually go all the way back down if you want to. I can't help but think I'm forgetting something, though. Oh well. I'm sure I'll think of it. Oh yeah, I think I'm supposed to be looking for someone. I really do enjoy how the stasis melee lets you glide down up elevators. I'm sure that'll come in handy at some point or another. In fact, it already did for getting into galaxy pools. It was quite handy. Ah, that's right. We're looking for Callie. But I don't think that's her. Oh well, better luck next time.